Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host, Logan Landers, and today we have a very special guest with us joining the show, Mr. David Schiele. Welcome to the show, David.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome, buddy. How you doing today?
I'm just hanging on with both hands, man.
Hey, that's all you can do, man. That's all you can do nowadays, man. But, hey, we're going to be having a great show today. We're going to be talking about the Tennessee Volunteers 2020 season preview. Before we get started, guys, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're doing a bunch of great videos here at the show, man. We're going to be broadcasting live every Monday, every Wednesday. We are one of the most consistent Facebook groups to be broadcasting football. No doubt, guys. Be sure to check out our show. Watch us on YouTube as well. Check us out on Twitch as well. We are broadcasting everywhere, guys. So without further ado, let's talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. And, hey, in this 2020 season, they're going to have a shortened year. They're only going to be playing against SEC teams. So we're going to do a breakdown of their schedule. Up first, they have the South Carolina Gamecocks, followed by the Missouri Tigers. Then they got to go against the number 4 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Whew. And they get a small break with the Kentucky Wildcats, who we've covered a little bit on the show. They got some good quarterbacks. Then the Alabama Crimson Tide come rolling in, as they always do, followed by the Arkansas Razorbacks. Shout out our football encyclopedia, Vincent Turner. Then we have the 13th-ranked Texas A&M Aggies, followed by the number 11 Auburn Tigers, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and finally the Florida Gators to wrap up the season. Man, it's not going to be an easy year, David. It's not the most challenging year they've ever faced, but it's definitely not the easiest. They're going to have some, hard hitters, no doubt. But being the SEC, that's what you come to expect. What do you think about their schedule and how they're going to shake out so far?
Well, honestly, it's a gauntlet. It's kind of a gauntlet with, you look at what could be an easy game here. Well, Kentucky is not necessarily easy just because of that rivalry that they have. And the SEC is not one of those. It's not a conference where any game is necessarily getting to you. Arkansas, they've had their struggles. That's well documented. Tennessee they've had their struggles with Vanderbilt, even when Vanderbilt has been one of the worst teams. But honestly, you just got to look at it for what it is. It's an all SEC schedule. Yep. It's tough. You get a bye week right there in the middle, which is nice. But Georgia, Alabama, Florida, some elite teams there. Then you got Auburn, Texas A&M. I think is a sleeper type of team. Yeah. Kind of a dark horse team. So it's not easy. In South Carolina, it's not even just like a South Carolina thing. It's a Will Muschamp thing. Will Muschamp just usually gives Tennessee had never beaten Will Muschamp as a head coach until last year. Yeah. They had never beaten Will Muschamp. And so he usually has a way of beating Tennessee. Last year was really like, we'll see if that's the exception or if it will become like the new rule. But it's not an easy schedule. But that's being an SEC team, Tennessee knows that. If someone say, hey, you're playing an all SEC schedule, we're going to add 2 more opponents. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of know, like, all right, well, it's not going to be easy.
Right. Yeah, man, no doubt. Like you said, especially with Will Muschamp, I'm sure, the Volunteer fans hear that and just have a little shiver. It's like, oh, no, not him again. But, yeah, no doubt, man. But, yeah, definitely not an easy schedule, especially with the all SEC like it is this year. It's going to be a rough going for him. But, hey, I got hopes for him, though. So some of their offensive keys, I think, that are going to help them this year. Solid quarterback play. We just did a video on Jarrett Garantano, who's their 5th-year senior quarterback. I expect him to have a good season. He's improved each year, and I expect nothing less out of him this year. Also, they finally have some coaching stability as well. I know that over the past few years that Tennessee's had a few coaching changes and whatnot, but they finally seem to figure that out, and they have a good core going forward. So the wide receivers do need to step up a little bit. They've had a few of them, come and go, but that's just how it is in college, man. Wide receivers come and go all the time, each and every year. So the new ones that come in, they got to step up, especially this year. They got high hopes of running back as well. They're going to have some solid hope, this year, and I think that their running back is going to be solid. Their offensive line's real experienced too. That is a crucial part for your success in any kind of league, any kind of conference. Is that good offensive line? Protect your quarterback, protect your running back, and it's good that they've got some experience coming back. And they've got one of the best kickers in the NCAA as well, man. What more do I got to say? So that's going to be some of their offensive keys. What do you think about how they're going to shake out on the offensive end for this year?
Well, I'll tell you what. The person I'm most excited about is Eric Gray, the running back, sophomore. didn't really have the stats that pop off the screen,
Mm-hmm.
but he made the most of his touches.
Yep.
Second longest run in Tennessee history against Vanderbilt, 94-yard touchdown, ran for over 200 yards in that game. So he ended the regular season with a bang and then scored the game-winning touchdown in the Gator Bowl and was named MVP of the bowl game over Indiana. But I will say this year, I was thinking, before the whole pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
I was honestly believing that Eric Gray was going to run for about 1,100 yards.
Yep.
I do believe he can still. I think willing we get a full season. I do say he does scratch or get near that 100-yard mark. But I just to me. The way that offensive line is built, you could be a good running back, but that offensive line, you've got Brandon Kennedy, he's a fifth-year senior. You got Trey Smith, who came back, decided to not go to the NFL. Potentially Cade Mays, if they can't get that exemption for him. That is a very strong offensive line, and they will do nothing but open up some gaps in that defense. Eric Gray, once he gets into the secondary, that man's dangerous. He's a lot faster than he really looks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also pretty shifty too. Like he's really shifty.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about what he can do. He's a outstanding young man as well. Gets good grades. Is such a good leader at such a young age. Just everything about him is just like it's hard to cheer against somebody like that.
Yeah.
Very easy to cheer for type of guy. Solid quarterback play. That's where a lot of people will scratch their heads and shake their heads because a lot of people do not like Jerry Garantano as quarterback. They think he should have transferred. But we were talking to Coach Chaney last week, and his thing was Garantano wants to be here. He wants to be at Tennessee. He loves Tennessee. He wants to win for Tennessee. And last year was a very unique situation. He has a terrible, terrible first half of the season. He threw 2 interceptions, had a couple of fumbles against Georgia State.
Yeah.
And from there, he just struggled. That Florida game was his worst game. Got benched at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even play. I don't think he played the second half, but if he did, it doesn't matter. Tennessee only scored 3 points in that game. But he did not start against Georgia. Basically lost the starting job. And what they started to do with him was he started to come off the bench. And he was kind of like the sixth man. And it was weird. Like the plan, I think, was to fully put him in the game, but he wasn't going to start at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else did until he got to later in the season. He did start the bowl game, but even then, Garantano started the bowl game, was taken out because he wasn't playing that well. They put in the backup Brian Maurer, who got a couple of starts, and then Maurer wasn't playing that well, so they put Garantano back in, and he was able to finish the game. It was a very odd thing, but they made it work. And this they're sold on him being the starter. A lot of people thought maybe freshman Harrison Bailey could steal that position away. I don't think that's going to happen. The way that the coaches have been talking about it, Jim Chaney, Jeremy Pruitt, they've all made it seem pretty plainly obvious that Garantano is a starter, and Brian Maurer, JT Shrout, Harrison Bailey are all competing to be the backup. They're all competing to be number 2. But right now, Garantano seems to be number 1. Will his play be solid? Well, this is the first time that he's going to have the same offensive coordinator as a starting quarterback. He's had a different offensive coordinator every single year, so he had to learn a different system all the time. So now he's got Jim Chaney back for the second year, and there's some concepts that he's getting more comfortable with, and they're starting to trust each other some more. So that could be a good thing. I just, his throws are questionable sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a streak of not throwing interceptions.
Right.
And it was one of the longest streaks. But yeah, I mean, sometimes he just makes decisions that are very questionable, makes throws that are very questionable. And honestly, it is pretty. I'm not gonna say common, but for most Tennessee fans that I've seen on social media, or at least a good number of them, they feel that if there's anybody that's an anchor on this offense, it's the quarterback. Who that shouldn't be your anchor. So that's just And the last point, just really quickly, wide receivers. Yeah, so you lose 2 seniors, not Jerry Garantano, but Jawan Jennings and Marquez Callaway. 2 seniors, 2 captains from last year. They're gone. Now you have Josh Palmer, you have Brandon Johnson, Ramel Keaton, and then Velus Jones that transferred over. But I really believe that Jawan Jennings and Marcos Callaway were just special talents. Jawan was an everything type of guy. He was like the energy. Such an energy that he brought to the field on the sidelines. He was a spark plug. Even when the Vols would be down big or something, he would just find a way to pump up the team. I don't know if they really have that. It's hard to replace a guy like Jawan Jennings. He was a special type of guy. Marquez Callaway, he was a guy who was really good at 50-50 balls. You put it up there, most of the time he would come down with it. He was just really, really good at those 50-50 balls. It's kind of hard to replace that. So those wide receivers do need to step up. There's some big shoes to fill. I think it's big shoes, not just on the field, but kind of off the field in the locker room, because Juan Jennings' energy is just unmatched.
No doubt. Yeah. So, quick question. We got a quick question from Mr. Vincent Turner. Of course, he was asking about what do you think about Harrison Bailey? So I know we said that he's going to be competing for the backup job this year, but after this season, how do you think he's going to be for the Vols? We just did a video on him a couple minutes ago. I expect big things out of him after this season. He's highly touted out of Georgia. He's the #1 ranked QB from Georgia. So I think he's going to have a really good career for the Vols after the season. What do you think about him?
I love me being from Georgia. I was familiar with what he was able to what he was doing at Marietta High School. Led them to their first state championship in decades.
Yeah.
In decades. I mean, and that's amazing. I love the way he plays. I love his vision as a quarterback. As a quarterback enthusiast, man, he plays with. I mean, he was a pro style guy, and you can see it. There are those who believe he's the next great Tennessee quarterback. I agree with that. I think he has a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback Tennessee has seen since Peyton Manning, since T. Martin, back in those days. And I really thought that by week 4, Harrison Bailey was going to at least see some playing time in relief of Garantano. That's what I believe. But if it's going to be the way where he's going to have to pay his dues and wait until Garantano actually leaves, then fine. But I really think the starting job should go to Harrison Bailey at some point this season if Garantano's not playing that well. But going forward, it's his job to lose, in my opinion. I think he's kind of the savior of that program. I mean, you're only as good as your starting quarterback is going to really take you. And even if you want to be heavy on the running game with Eric Gray, and you want your quarterback to be a game manager, I think he can be a really good game manager. But I do think he could be an elite college quarterback. I really do.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Hey, I know a lot of the people in the Vols Facebook groups and all, they're itching to see Harrison Bailey on the field sooner rather than later, no doubt. But he's going to be a stud once he gets on the field for sure. So talking about the offensive side, we covered all that. Let's flip it over to the defense. So some keys I think they need to have to be successful this year. They're projected to have another top 10 defense. Their defense is out of this world. They have that stacked defensive line, as you're well aware. And something that's real, crucial to me, they have 8 starters returning, which, as we see for a lot of colleges, like bigger colleges, a lot of their starters get, drafted. But then they have a lot of them coming back, and they're going to be a threat to be reckoned with this season. And they have that young linebacking core moving forward as well. So a lot of people are going to be hyped about that. But the real question is, can they hold up the whole season, though? I know being a shorter season, as we were aware, but yes, they're going to be facing more SEC teams. So they're going to be facing a lot more harder, faster wide receivers and a lot better quarterbacks than they were in the previous years. So how do you think they're going to hold up for this season?
Well, they've lost 2 leaders on defense as well.
Yeah.
Daniel Batuli, Daryl Taylor, Knight Warrior were all captains on that defense. They were all leaders, all seniors. Daniel Batuli, you could see how lost that defense was without him there in the middle. Daryl Taylor, one of the best pass rushers the SEC has seen in the past couple of years, going to the second round to the Seattle Seahawks. He absolutely earned that type. He was considered in the first round by the Seahawks, but they were able to grab him in the second. That's how good he was. And then you've got Knight Warrior in the back end.
Doubt.
Who was able to, and he was always in a position where
he was definitely could have.
Well, real quickly, the
yeah, go ahead.
the point about Nigel Warrior was simply, hey, he was able to look at the offense and move everybody around, and put different players in the right position. And I
Go
think
out
they
there
have to replace.
play.
They've got to replace some of that leadership. I think that's going to be the hardest thing for them.
Yeah.
How do you replace that pass rush? Henry To'oTo'o, a really good guy who was as a freshman, has good football instincts. But what is he really going to be able to do now that it's kind of he's now the quarterback of the defense as a true sophomore? What will he have to do? What does he need to do? And I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. So I do think there's a bit of a learning curve. You got some experience in the secondary, Bryce Thompson, Alante Taylor at corner. And, who knows I think they'll get better as the season goes. But at the beginning, I honestly do expect the defense to be a little bit on the rough side as they try to figure it all out. Because they've got a mix of experience, but it's also some youth.
Yeah. You just got, like you say, you just got to be able to kind of teach the young guys the way the way the defense is. But I think once they get a couple of weeks in them, not too many, but about 2 or 3, they'll be able to get that learning curve and really be ready to help out the defense with that young linebacking core, no doubt. But yeah, I think the defense is going to be a solid. After, like I said, it'll take a little bit to get kind of gelled together and whatnot, and get their locker room leaders figured out for this year. But I think they'll get it all figured out. So for the 2020 outlook for me, like I said, they're going to be improving. They had a good end of the year last year with that bowl win, like you said. They got a good experience of some raw and some experienced talent, like we were talking about. Hopefully the experienced talent will be able to rub off on the raw young guys. I think they're going to get around 6 to 7 wins this year. I think they're going to get some upset wins over some of the ranked teams. And you just got to trust coach, man. Always got to trust the coach. I think he'll be able to guide them to, like I said, 6 to 7 wins in this 10-game season. But hold on. First, we got a question. It says, what's the Vols' best chance for an upset victory? Well, if it had to be ever a ranked team, I guess, I would go, A&M or Auburn. That's my pick. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Texas A&M and Auburn are 2 games where Tennessee could steal a victory. You've got Texas A&M coming to town, so that's a good thing. And Auburn's a team that, you can find a way to upset Auburn. They've done it before. So I do think that's pretty possible. But don't completely overlook, I think, the game at Georgia. And the only reason I say that is because Georgia they've got to figure out their quarterback situation. They got to figure that out. I will say the toughest thing, though, about Georgia is that defense. They are going to have one of the most elite defenses in the country, not the most elite, just because there's a lot of other conferences not playing. But I think you look at the miracle win Tennessee had against Georgia a couple of years ago. Well, Tennessee was a good team even then, but Tennessee was just able to hang in there and figure out a way to win. And Georgia just has a way of. There's always one game, maybe 2, where it's like, how did Georgia lose this game? You never know when that game's going to happen. And so sometimes it comes against Tennessee. It just can't explain it. It just happens that way sometimes. So don't overlook it. But if you wanted to put your money on something, I would say Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's kind of like the safe pick, I would think. Like I said, it's hard for any team to beat Alabama, at least, in just once a year. But Georgia, too, like you said, with that elite defense they got, it's going to be another top 10 defense as well. And they're just always going to be scared. But like you said, they could pull off that upset because you said, once or twice a year they have that. And how they lose this game, or how they, come so close to losing this game against the opponent that's not of their, caliber. And I could definitely see Tennessee being kind of like that upset team, I would say, against them. But definitely after having that improved 2019 season, they're going to have a good 2020 season. So, David, any final thoughts on the season?
I just really want to say, hey, Tennessee has come a long way.
Yeah.
You look exactly 1 year ago. People consider Tennessee to be at its lowest point as a football program ever.
Yeah.
Because a year ago, this time, I was getting ready to go to my first Tennessee football game, and it just so happened to be against my alma mater, Georgia State. And Georgia State won that game. And I will never forget, what people said on the radio, what people said on YouTube, the vlogs, all of that. They were calling for Jeremy Pruitt's head.
Yep.
They wanted that man gone by the next day. They wanted Coach Fulmer to take over the team.
Mm-hmm.
They were sick of it. They were done. Tennessee fans were at their wits' end. Then you fast forward a couple months later, Tennessee's on a winning streak. Then you fast forward to January of this year. Tennessee wins a bowl game. And you're like, whoa. How did Tennessee go from the worst loss in program history, then losing to BYU, to where they are right now, coming off a 6-game winning streak where they ended the season 8-5, and now all of a sudden we're sitting here saying Tennessee kind of has a chance to win the SEC East if they play well and a couple of lucky things happen. You get some lucky breaks with Florida and Georgia, but it's weird. It's weird, but Tennessee has come a very long way, because I tell you what, the program looked to be dead in the water after Dan Ellington and the Georgia State Panthers ran amok on Tennessee at Neyland. I mean, it was that's looked at as one of the worst days ever. I don't think Tennessee fans are really thinking to themselves this morning that, hey, man, it's been a year since that Georgia State game. But I tell you, if you bring it up to them, there's always that game where you just say the name of the opposing team, and they go, oh, man. I mean, you go to a Michigan fan, you go, yeah, I went to App State. Man, hey, really? Yeah, I went to App State. You go to a Florida fan, you're like, yeah, I went to Georgia Southern. They go, Georgia Southern. Goodness gracious, But now Tennessee has that when you say, yeah, I went to Georgia State. Same thing. And they've just come a long way from that. I think fans should be excited about this season. They should look forward to it, and just be glad that we're having football. Yeah. We're gonna at least, we've seen that you can play college football during a pandemic. We just saw with Central Arkansas, and that game wasn't the best, but hey, it was football.
There you go.
Something. So we saw Austin Peay and Central Arkansas play a game, and that was pretty good. We got more games coming up. And once Tennessee gets things started on September 26th, just be glad that you get at least one game in there in 2020, because for a while it looked like we weren't going to get anything.
No. Hey, yeah, like you said, man, just be happy that we're going to have a season. That's all we can hope for, man. But, David, let the fine people at home know where they can follow you at on social media.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Deacon_Schiele. You can see how that is spelled right there. I also have a YouTube channel. It's a gaming channel, so if you like gaming, well, then there you go. It's 5 Wars Deek. I've done some NCAA series. I'm gonna get into some more NCAA football video gaming. I'm gonna be starting a Madden 21. I haven't picked up the game yet, but once that gets up there, I'll have Madden 21. I'll be playing some of that, so I can stream that. Whatever the case may be, that's the plan there. So if you want to get into my gaming channel, there it is right there, 5 Wars Geek. But also, if you just want to see me talk about sports, or you want to interact, or whatever it is, Twitter, Instagram, at Deacon_Schiele.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Guys, be sure to go follow his Twitter, especially great content almost every 5 minutes. It's absolute great thing I see on my timeline. Well, any final words on the show, David?
I tell you what, I thank you for having me on here. I think in the very beginning you said something about being one of the most consistent shows out here. I have to agree. From what I've seen, I was like, man, this is impressive. I'm glad I get to be a part of it, even if it's just a small part. But I'm glad to have been a part of it and talking Tennessee football. I never thought I would actually talk Tennessee football. Coming out of college. Yep. Now that I'm getting to my second season of covering Tennessee football, I was able to spit out some knowledge that honestly I've had to really grind to learn. I mean, there was so much I had to learn. I didn't grow up a Tennessee fan. Right. I never lived in Tennessee, and I went to Georgia State, so it's not like I never crossed paths with Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of funny that my first Tennessee game came against Georgia State. But I look at what the atmosphere around the program is, Neyland Stadium, the fans and the culture and all that. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it definitely takes time to get used to. It takes time to learn. So I've had to be patient with myself, because there are some Vol encyclopedias walking around the street here who will tell you, man, I remember this game back in 1982. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Crazy stuff.
No doubt, man. Hey, we'd love to have you back on the show one day, man. Appreciate you coming on the show, talking your Tennessee Volunteer season preview. For our special guest, David Schiele, I'm your host, Logan Landers, and we have been talking about the Tennessee Volunteers 2020 season preview, and we are 100 Yards Football. Be sure if you like this video, like, comment, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram as well. We are doing videos consistently on the page. And without further ado, guys, we will be talking to you later.